Good afternoon. It's Monday, March 8th, and we're still in the book of John, and today we're looking at the 11th chapter. There is a lot of emotion involved in this chapter, and that's part of what makes John different than the Synoptic Gospels, which is Matthew, Mark, and Luke. All the humanity and feeling that he puts into this book. The other three told the story, but didn't put in a lot of feeling, at least not as much as John. So we encounter both the human and the divine Jesus in this chapter. So you may remember the story. A man named Lazarus was sick. And he was the brother of Martha and Mary, and the three of them lived in a village called Bethany. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, thinking he would come right away. Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were the closest thing to a family that Jesus had. And you may remember, Jesus visited them before, and Mary poured perfume on his feet, and then she wiped it with her hair. And that was truly a sign of love and affection. Well, so Jesus gets word of this. Instead of immediately going to Bethany, he decided to go back to Judea. And his disciples said, "Why would you do that? That's where they tried to stone you, remember?" And Jesus answered, "A man who walks by day will not stumble, for he sees by this world's light. It's when he walks by night that he stumbles, for he has no light." So Jesus is going back to the light versus darkness analogy. And those who believe are in the light and with the light of the world, him. But those who don't believe will stumble in the darkness, like the Pharisees. And as long as Jesus is living under his Father's will, he doesn't fear the Jewish leaders. They're not going to hurt him. God is in charge. And so Jesus tells his disciples, "Hey guys, Lazarus is dead." And so they all go to Bethany. And there are lots of Jews already there coming to mourn because Lazarus had already died. And so they came to be with Mary and Martha in their grief. And Martha went out to meet Jesus when he arrived and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." Jesus tells her that her brother will rise again. And Martha expresses her faith in him as the Christ. And then Mary came out from where she had been, because they were in another, Martha and Jesus were not close to the house. So Mary came out and she said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." The same thing her sister had said. And then when Jesus saw her weeping, he was deeply moved and troubled. It really got to him. I mean, these were close friends. And Jesus wept. Now, Jesus wept is the shortest verse of the Bible. Just a little trivia there. But it also shows that the human Jesus was so emotional and grief-stricken, and that he really did care. Well, some of the Jews saw this and said, "Oh, look how Jesus loved him." But others said, "Wait a minute, isn't this the one who opened the eyes of the blind man? And yet he couldn't keep this man from dying?" So Jesus tells them, "Take away the stone covering the entrance to the tomb." But Martha says, "Oh, won't he smell bad? It's been 4 days." But Jesus says, "Didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" And he looked up, and so he looked up into the heavens and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. I knew that you always hear me, but I say this for the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. So Jesus, it sounds like Jesus deliberately allowed Lazarus to die and then miraculously brought him back to life just to show people, just so people would believe. Even though he had done other miracles, this was another one intended to show people, look what I'm doing here, people. This is a miracle. Please believe. And so Lazarus came out of the tomb alive and wrapped in linen cloths. And it doesn't say that he smelled bad. Maybe he didn't, since Jesus was performing a miracle. Well, the Jews didn't argue. The Jewish leaders didn't argue about the miracles of Jesus. I mean, they knew them. They couldn't dispute them. They didn't like that people may think Jesus is the Messiah. And the leaders didn't believe he was the Messiah. They knew they would also lose their power over the people if enough people believed that he was the Messiah. And so now they've ramped up their plot to kill Jesus. And Jesus heard this and stopped moving around publicly among the Jews. So the tension mounts.